Hello and welcome to Poison Therapy Clinic. Today I'm going to be showing you some basic Pilates exercises. This is an introduction to Pilates, but if you do have any pre-existing conditions or injuries, please do contact your GP before participating in this exercise video. I hope you enjoy. So before we start our Pilates workout, we're just going to do a little warm-up just to loosen up all the joints and the muscles before we get them working. So we're going to start off by warming up our head and shoulders by doing some head turns side to side. So just going as far as you're able to comfortably. So we're going to do about 5 to each side. And then once we've finished that set of 5 to each side, we're going to then do side to side, so ear down to shoulder. Again, just as far as feels comfortable. And then we're also going to look ever so slightly up and then chin to chest looking down. Now if you have any neck problems, just be careful looking up because that might exacerbate any problems you might have. So just go as far as feels comfortable. If you feel any kind of dizziness or lightheadedness, I would avoid taking your head back too far. Okay, and now we're moving on to the shoulders. So we're going to do some nice gentle shoulder rolls, loosening up the shoulders and the shoulder blades. And then hands onto your shoulders, and we're going to just make that movement a little bigger, drawing circles with our elbows. And then reversing that, going the opposite way. Lovely, and then popping those arms down by your side. And then for this next one, we're going to warm up the sides of our body by sliding one hand down the outside of one leg, just as far as you can manage to go comfortably, and then to the other side. Just keep going, a couple more, and then back to the centre. Lovely, and then we're going to do some little spinal twists. So we're going to have our hands in front of us and then just gently twisting side to side. Just as far as your body will allow you to go. Good, and then back to centre. Okay, arms down by your side, and we're just going to actually pop those hands on your hips this time, and we're going to just do some hip circles. Just warming up the lower back and the hips. And of course, with any of these warm-up exercises, you can do as few or as many as you like, depending on how stiff you are. You want to get to the point where you start to feel a little bit looser. And then you can move on to the next movement. And then we're going to reverse and go the other way with these hip circles. And then back to the centre. Good. Bringing those feet in a little bit closer now. Going to gently pop your hands onto your knees and then circle those knees round just warming up those knee joints. Good, and then changing direction. Lovely, and then back to the center. And then finally your ankles. So if you have problems with your balance, just keep your toes in contact with the ground, and then you're just going to circle the ankle round. Good, and then the other side. If you're okay with your balance, you can lift your foot off the ground and then do slightly bigger circles, one way and then the other way. Lovely, okay, and then feet back together, and that's the end of our warm-up. So now we're going to have a look at posture. What we want to do is make sure that we have a really nice posture so that when we are doing our Pilates exercises, our body is getting the most benefit out of those exercises. So first of all, we're going to start with our feet. So if you start with your feet together and then take your toes apart as wide as they'll go, and then take your heels apart so that they're in line with your feet, and then you will have your feet roughly hip width apart. You then want to make sure that your knees are nice and soft, so try not to lock out your knees. And then we're going to grow tall through our body and up into our neck and head. So imagine you've got a balloon attached to the top of your head, and that balloon is drawing you up so that you're growing nice and tall. You've got a nice long neck, and our shoulders are down and slightly back. Okay, and that is our starting posture. We now also want to have a look at the position that our pelvis is in. So this is really important for Pilates because we want to try and work around what we call a neutral pelvis when we are doing our exercises. So what we mean by neutral pelvis is if you put your hands on your hips and then just reach down so that you can feel the bony points at the front of your hips. What we're going to do is do some pelvic tilts forwards and backwards before we figure out where our neutral pelvis is. So if you tip those bones up toward you, so you're drawing those bones up toward your shoulders, and what you'll feel is that you're squeezing your bottom muscles and your bottom is tucking under. And then we're going to go the other way, so those bony bits at the front of your hips are going to come forwards and down towards your knees, and you'll feel that your bottom is sticking out and your lower back is arching. So we're going to come back again, tilting our pelvis backwards, and then tilting our pelvis forwards as far as we can go. So we're going to actually do that a couple of times just to get a feeling of what that's about and how you can actually use those muscles to produce that movement. Takes a little bit of getting used to sometimes because we're not always that familiar with how to use our muscles to do this particular movement. And then what we're going to do next is tilt the pelvis all the way back, all the way forwards, and then try and find that center, that middle point between halfway between all the way back and all the way forwards. And that is what we call our neutral pelvis. Okay, so once we've got our neutral pelvis set, the next thing we want to do is try and switch on those core muscles. And the way to do this is by gently trying to draw your belly button towards your spine. So you're sucking in those tummy muscles, but ever so gently, so that we don't switch on those six-pack muscles. We're wanting to switch on the muscles underneath them. So it's very gently drawing the belly button towards the spine. The other way that we can do this, switching on those core muscles, is to try and draw up the pelvic floor up and in. And then once we've got those core muscles switched on, we need to try and keep them switched on as we then perform each of the movements that we're going to do through the series of exercises. Okay, so a couple of do's and don'ts once we've got our neutral pelvis is to also be watching what our shoulders are doing. So what we don't want them to do is come up towards the ears and be all bunched up. We want to drop those shoulders down so we've got a nice long neck and a relaxed shoulder area. We also don't want to be pushing the shoulders all the way back. They need to be ever so slightly set back, so we've got a very gentle squeeze between our shoulder blades, but not so much so that the shoulders are braced back like this. So a gentle squeeze on those shoulder blades. And then also our rib cage here, when we come to do particular shoulder work where the arm is going above the head, the danger here is for the shoulders to go all the way back, the back to arch, so the back to overarch, and the rib cage to flare out. What we want to do is make sure that our rib cage here stays nice and flat. So if you can imagine the bottom of your rib cage and the top of your pelvis, the distance between the two there should remain the same when we're taking our arms above our head. If you allow your ribs to flare, that distance increases. If you allow yourself to slouch, that distance reduces. So what we want to do when we're doing these exercises is try to draw the rib cage down so that the distance here between the bottom of the rib cage and the top of the pelvis remains the same. Okay, so this exercise involves doing a little bit of twisting work through the middle of our body. So we're going to start with our arms up in front of us, and for this one it's important that the twist is coming from our trunk and not from lower down or higher up. So imagine that the bony points at the front of your hips are beams on the front of a car, and they need to be pointing straight ahead. So we want to make sure our hips are not twisting. So the action for this movement is to take one arm out to the side and follow it round with your eyes, and then come back to the centre, and then out to the other side and back round to the centre. Okay, so the correct way to do this exercise with the arms out in front of us is to take the arm out to the side, follow it round with your head, and twisting through your trunk without letting your hips move. And then going to the other side, letting your trunk twist, but not your hips. The incorrect way to do it is to twist, and you can see here that her hips are also twisting round. And back to the centre, and to the other side, and those hips are twisting. So you want those hips to stay facing forwards through this movement. So for this move, our arms are going to start out in front of us, and we're going to remember to keep those shoulders down and maintain that neutral pelvis. This exercise is good to again warm up the ankles, knees and hips, but it's also a good coordination one because our left and our right sides are doing something slightly different. So the move is to take one arm up above your head and then bend the knee and ankle on the opposite side. Back to centre, and then same thing on the other side. And what you'll notice is as the arm is going up, those ribs are not flaring, they're staying down. And we're maintaining our neutral pelvis. Good. Okay, so we're going to start off with our arms out in front of us, and we're now going to add in a breathing element to the movement. So once you've got the move, you can start to add in the breathing control as well. So we're going to inhale to prepare and exhale as the arm comes up and the opposite knee bends, and then inhale back to center and exhale. And inhale back to center and exhale. And inhale and rest. Okay, so for this exercise we're going to be working on balance. If you know that your balance isn't brilliant, you might want to have a chair next to you with a back on it so that you can lightly hold on to the chair so that you don't lose your balance completely. For this exercise, we're going to have the feet hip width apart, our pelvis is in that neutral position, and we're going to switch on those core muscles. That's important because that's what's going to help us keep our balance. And then we're going to lift the heel of one foot up, and then once you feel that you've got your balance, gently lift the toes up, draw the knee up until it gets to roughly hip height, and then slowly back down to the floor. And then repeat on the other side, heel up first, peel the foot away from the floor, drawing the knee up towards the hip, and then slowly back down. And now we can also add in some breathing if you want to for this exercise. So we're going to inhale to prepare, exhale as the knee comes up, and inhale as the knee and foot lower. And exhale as the other foot comes up, and inhale as it lowers back down to the floor. So this movement is a really nice one to loosen up our backs, and it will also help us to gracefully get down onto our mats. So what we're going to do is take our chin down to our chest, and then slowly slide our hands down the front of our thighs, imagining that you're trying to peel yourself away from a wall. And we're going to keep coming down, trying to get each level of our back involved in the movement as we come down. So dropping that head down, just as far as feels comfortable, knees stay soft, and then we're going to uncurl back up to center, trying to restack the spine level by level. So the bottom of our backs, the middle section of our back, and then the top section, our neck and our head, coming back to center. And this time we can add in some breathing, so we can take a breath in to prepare, and then exhale as we come down, so chin to chest, and rolling down, so upper back curling forwards, middle back curling forwards, lower back as far as we can go comfortably, and then coming back up, inhaling on the way back up, restacking the spine back to our neutral position. And then this time we're going to come down, so same move again, chin to chest, peeling down, exhaling as we come down. And once we get to the bottom, we're going to walk our hands forwards and come into a kneeling position, so our hands and our knees are on the mat. Okay, for this exercise, we're going to make sure that we've got a good starting position. So we're going to have our hands underneath our shoulders, our knees underneath our hips, and we're going to make sure that those shoulders are drawn down our backs, and we're going to also try and have a nice long neck so that our head is in line with our back. So we're not looking up for this exercise or looking down, we're trying to keep that nice long neck position. The movement now is to try and arch our back like a cat, looking up and dropping the back down so that our bottom sticks up in the air, and then reversing that, coming the other way, so looking down to the mat, curling up, arching our back and dropping the hips and the pelvis down, and then back the other way, just going as far as feels comfortable, and then the other way, so arching up, tucking your tailbone under, and then coming back the other way, looking up, and then sticking your tailbone out. Good. And then what we're going to do is come to the middle, so finding the halfway point between those two positions. And this is called our flat back position. So our head is nicely aligned, our back has a gentle little curve in the lower back, but that's all. And our weight is evenly distributed between our hands and our knees. So from your flat back position, we are now going to look at taking one arm out in front of us. So just going as far as you can control. So this is the right way to do it. The wrong way to do it would be to take that arm out, and you can see now your trunk is twisting. You've lost that nice position. So bringing the arm back down, and then you can do the same thing on the other side, just taking the arm out as far as you can control without twisting through your trunk, and then that arm comes back down. And then taking one leg out behind you so that the ankle comes up to hip height. And again, that's the correct way to do it. The wrong way to do it would be to lift too high so that your hip then starts to twist and rotate. So coming back down to the mat, other side, extending the knee, lifting the foot up to hip height without letting those hips twist, and then coming back down. If you want to make this exercise a little bit more challenging, you can then add the arm and leg in together. So we're going to take one arm out in front, get your balance, and then release the opposite leg behind. And then come back to center. And then repeat on the other side. So arm first, balance, and then leg comes next, and then hold, and then back to center. Okay, for this move, we're going to be focusing on trying to get a little bit of twist or rotation through the middle part of our body. So we're going to take the arm out to the side, follow it round with our eyes, and then we're going to take that hand and pass it through the gap, and then twist through the trunk the other way, and then back to the center. And then release the other arm, take it out to the side, follow it round with your eyes and your head, and then thread that arm through the gap, reaching through, so you get a nice twist through the middle part of your body, and then back to the center, and then repeat again. You can add in some breathing if you want to, so inhaling here and exhaling as you come down and into the twist, and then inhaling back to the center, and then releasing, inhale, and then exhale as you come down and through, and then back to the center. Okay, so now we have come down onto the mats on our backs, and we're going to again just check our posture by setting our pelvis into that neutral position. So we're going to do this by placing our hands on the front of our hips over those bony bits, and we're now going to rock our pelvis back, so tucking the tailbone under, and those bones will draw up towards your shoulders. And then we're going to now release that and let those bones come back down and then draw down towards your ankles. And you'll find that you'll be sticking your tailbone out. And then come back the other way, so rocking your pelvis so that you're tucking your tailbone under. And then the other way so that your pelvis is rocking forwards and you're sticking your tailbone out. And then finding halfway between those two positions, which is our neutral pelvis, and then thinking about drawing up those pelvic floor muscles. So belly button gently draws towards your spine, and you're drawing up those pelvic floor muscles in between your legs, up and in. shoulders are nicely drawn down your back and your head is nicely centered and your feet are flat on the mat. Okay, so for this exercise, what we're going to do is release one foot and take the knee up to hip height and then back down to the floor. And then the other foot releases, knee up to hip height and then back down to the floor. All the while we're trying to keep the core muscles engaged. And if you want to add in some breathing, we can inhale to prepare, exhale as the foot and knee come up, and inhale back down to center, and exhale up, and inhale down. If you want to make the move more challenging, we can come up into a tabletop position where both feet are away from the mat, and then we're going to just drop one foot gently down, toe taps down onto the mat and then comes back up, and then the other toe taps down and comes back up. You need to make sure that you can still maintain your neutral pelvis and that you're not getting any discomfort in your lower back when you're doing this exercise. Otherwise, keeping both feet on the mat and just doing one leg at a time would be preferable. So for this exercise, we're going to be looking at trying to build some control around rotation. And we're going to have both hands on the front of our hips over those bony areas. And they should stay level. So imagine that you've got a spirit level across the front of your hips and the bubble is in the middle, and we don't want that bubble to veer off to the left or the right. So if one hip drops down, we need to try and bring that hip back to level. So the move for this one is to slowly take one knee out to the side as far as you can control. So as soon as you start to feel your hips becoming unlevel, you stop the move and you come back to center. And then the other side, the same thing, dropping the other knee out away from the center, out to the side as far as you can control, and then back to center. And again, knee coming out to the side, try not to let those hips move, back to the middle, and then over to the other side. And then we can add in some breathing. So from the center, inhaling to prepare, switching on those core muscles, and then exhaling as the knee comes out to the side. Keep those core muscles engaged. Make sure the hips don't roll, and then bringing the knee back to center on the inhale, and then on the exhale, taking the knee out to the side, and inhaling back to center. So for this exercise, we're going to do what we call bridge, where we lift the bottom slowly up and away from the mat, drawing those knees further over our feet, trying to keep the hips level, squeezing through our bottom muscles as we come up and hold, and then slowly releasing and coming back down to the mat. So peeling back down, and then relaxing, and then again, so coming up away from the mat, drawing those knees out over our feet, holding that position, squeezing through those bottom muscles, and then releasing back down to the mat. We can add in some breathing to this, so inhaling to prepare, exhaling as you come up, and hold for a few seconds, and then inhaling as you come back down. Good. So for this version, the arms are crossed over our chest, so that we're not tempted to use our arms to help to push us up away from the mat. So it's slightly more challenging than version 1, but the rest of the move is the same. So we're going to peel away from the mat, squeezing through our bottom muscles, hips stay level, Knees coming forward slightly over our toes and then heeling back down to the mat, releasing those bottom muscles. Adding in our breathing, so inhaling to prepare, exhaling as we come up. Knees draw forwards towards our toes, squeeze through our bottom muscles, hold, and then coming back down on the inhale. For this exercise, we've got our knees bent so our feet are hip width apart and our arms are down by our side. And the move is to straighten one knee and lift the opposite arm up above our head and then come back to center. And then repeat on the other side. So sliding the foot away and the arm comes up above the head and then coming back to center. What we want to make sure with this exercise is that we don't lose the neutral pelvis position as that foot slides away from us, and also that we don't flare our ribs as the arm comes overhead. If you find that that's happening, then don't go any further, just come back to center. So you're only going as far as you can control through your rib cage and through your hips and pelvis. You can add in some breathing, so inhaling to prepare, exhaling as we slide away, and inhaling back to center. Exhaling away, and inhale back to center. So this exercise is called clams. So I'm just going to show you how we set our starting position so that we get the most out of the exercise. So this is our starting position with our knees bent up, our heels and our knees together, and the bottom arm is out in front of us and the top arm is bent with the hands just lightly pressing into the mat. The hip here, what we're going to do is stack the top hip over the bottom one to make sure that our hips and pelvis are in neutral. So what we're going to do is elongate the side of the body here by drawing the hip, the top hip down, so that we get more length here, and this top hip now is directly over the bottom hip. Once we've got our hips stacked, you need to maintain that position throughout the exercise. So the bottom knee stays where it is. The top knee now is going to lift up and away from the bottom knee. We're only going to lift up as high as we can control. So if we lift up too high, the hips and the pelvis start to roll, which is not what we want. We want the knees to start from here and the top knee to come up as far as it can, squeezing through your bottom muscles but not letting the hip roll. So our headlights here and here are still pointing forwards and our hip is still stacked. So we're going to do a set of 10 of those on this side. So inhaling to prepare and exhaling as that top knee lifts up and out. Hips and pelvis stay nice and stable, and exhaling as we come down. Inhaling to prepare and exhaling as we come up this time, and inhaling on the way down. And exhaling as we come up, and inhaling on the way down. And exhaling on the way up, and inhaling on the way down. Keep going, another couple. And last one. And slowly back down. And rest. This exercise is called arm openings. So Again, we're in side lying, the knees bent up, heels together and knees together. The arms this time, both of them are out long in front of us, and we're going to stack our hips again. So the top hip, we're going to draw down to elongate this part of the body, and we're going to maintain that position around our hips and pelvis. The movement is to take the top arm up and over, following the hand with the head, so the head and neck is turning as well, and then coming back to centre. As we do this movement, we're going to inhale to prepare, exhale as the arm comes up, and we're going to get a nice twisting through the trunk, making sure that the hips and pelvis stay pointing forwards. If you go too far, the hips and pelvis will start to roll, which is not what we want. That's how you know how far to go with the arm, and then come back down. So we're going to carry on, inhaling to prepare, exhale as you come up and over with the arm, keeping the hips nicely stacked and in neutral, and exhaling as we come up, inhaling as we come down. Inhaling to prepare, exhaling up and out, and inhaling back, exhaling as we come up again, inhaling back to centre, and let's do 2 more like that. And last one. And then rest. So we're now moving to exercise on our tummies, and you'll notice that we've got a rolled up towel underneath the forehead to allow clearance for our face and nose to breathe. Our arms are long and our legs are long, and the move we're going to do is to hover one arm up to hip height and the opposite leg, so that the thigh, front of the thigh, just clears the mat, and then gently come back down to the starting position. And then opposite side. So as we hover that arm up, we're thinking of drawing the shoulder down and back so that there's a gentle squeeze through our shoulder blade and a gentle squeeze through our bottom and hamstring muscles as we lift the leg and then lower back down to the mat. Adding in some breathing, inhaling to prepare, exhaling as we hover the arm and leg away from the mat, drawing that shoulder down and back, squeezing through our bottom muscles, engaging the core, and then slowly back down to the mat. And once more on the other side, inhaling to prepare, squeezing through our core muscles, lift, hold, inhaling on the way down. Okay, for this one, you'll notice that we've got the arms out to the side. The pillow is still resting, the forehead is still resting on the pillow, and we are going to, from here, gently press through our forearms and hands to lift the breastbone away from the mat, but still keeping our gaze down towards the mat so that our neck stays long, and then gently coming back down to the mat again. So inhaling to prepare, exhaling as we come up away from the mat ever so slightly. It's a small movement, and then slowly back down again. And then once more, making sure that the lower back doesn't overarch. So keeping the movement quite small, and then slowly back down again. So we're just going to do a few cool down stretches to release those muscles that we've been working. So the first one is to stretch out the shoulder blade and shoulder area. So we're going to take one arm across, holding onto the opposite shoulder, and then using the other arm to just gently pull that arm across a little bit further to feel a stretch through the shoulder blade. Hold for a few seconds and then release, and then same thing on the opposite side. So hand over to the opposite shoulder, use the other arm to draw the arm across the body, stretching through the shoulder and shoulder blade. Hold for a few moments and then release. So bringing the arms down by your side, we're going to pick the foot and knee up off the floor and hold onto the back of the thigh, and then lift the foot as far as you can up towards the ceiling. So just holding the back of the thigh and then feeling that stretch through your hamstring, and then if you then draw the foot towards you, you'll then feel also a stretch through your calf muscle as well. Holding that there for a few seconds and then bringing that foot down, and then repeating on the opposite side, just holding the back of the thigh first to feel the stretch through the hamstring, keeping the foot soft, and then gently drawing the foot towards you to add on the stretch through your calf, holding that position. And then bringing the foot back down. From here we're going to lift up one foot and place it on the opposite knee, and then drop that knee out to the side so that you're feeling a stretch through those inner thigh muscles and through your glutes. Holding that for a few seconds and then dropping that foot down and repeating on the other side. Just opening out the knee and leg as far as feels comfortable. Holding that there for a few breaths. And then bringing that foot back down to rest on the mat. Okay, so now that we've worked hard, let's come into a time of relaxation. We're going to start off by focusing on our breathing. So we're going to put our hands on each side of our rib cage, just to act as a reference point. So what we want to do is take a nice slow breath in and try and push our ribs out into our hands, so side to side, and then exhale. What we don't want to do when we take an inhale is to let the tummy rise up too much and lift our ribs up towards the ceiling or the sky. So we're going to exhale again and inhale and try and take our ribs out towards where our hands are, to the sides. And then exhaling. And then inhaling for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhaling for 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Couple more rounds of that, just gently inhaling and exhaling. And then our arms are going to come down by our sides. Head is nicely centered, legs are long, and we're going to start off with circling our feet in a nice big circle, 5 times in each direction. Nice steady breaths as we're doing this, trying to slow down our breathing. And then back to the center, bending both knees up so that our feet are flat on the mat. And we're just going to gently drop both knees down to one side as far as feels comfortable. And then coming back to center, inhaling and exhaling as we take the knees to the other side. Coming back to center on the inhale and exhaling down to the side. We want to make this stretch a little bit deeper, taking our arms out to the side. And then head turns one way and knees drop in the opposite direction. We're adding a nice twist through the middle part of our body. Inhaling and then slowly exhaling. Inhale back to center and exhale. Once more to each side. And then coming back to center, we're going to pick one knee up and then the next knee as well. So one at a time, gently holding onto our shins and then doing little circles with our knees, giving our lower back a little massage. So circling the knees 5 times in one direction and then 5 times in the other. And then just gently, one at a time, lower each foot down to the mat and stretching our legs back out long. And then we're going to move up to our shoulders, doing some circling movements up and back and down. Nice slow movements. Slowing down our breathing as well. And then resting our arms on the mat and then doing some circles with our wrists as well. Nice and slow, in time with our breathing. And in the other direction. And then resting our hands back down onto the mat and then gently doing some neck movement side to side. So looking one way and then back to the center and then looking the other way, just as far as feels comfortable. Rolling the head side to side. Minimal effort. Focusing on our breathing. One more to each side. And then coming back to center. And we're going to take an inhale. And as we exhale, we're going to take both arms up, reach them up above our heads. And leave them there as we take an inhale. And as we exhale, pointing our toes down, reaching our arms nice and long, nice big stretch. And then inhale and relax. and exhale and stretch, elongating our bodies as much as we can, and then inhaling, and last time exhaling, nice long stretch, and inhaling and drawing those arms back down to our sides, and then just focusing on our breathing alone, taking an inhale, trying to expand our rib cage out to the sides, and exhale. Inhaling for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhaling for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last deep breath here, inhaling for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhaling 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then just bringing our breathing back to a normal inhale and exhale. Feeling the weight of our body sinking into the mat. And then gently bending our knees back up and gently opening our eyes, coming back into the present and finishing our relaxation there. Thank you for participating in our Pilates video. I hope you enjoyed it. See you all again soon. Bye bye.